They wrote me out of their story. They replaced me. But you can't erase someone who was never trying to fit in. Before we dive into the moment I rocked my entire family's world, hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss more stories about reclaiming your narrative and standing your ground. The champagne still buzzed in my ears, a sweet, deceptive hum after Liam's opulent wedding. We were nestled around the polished mahogany table at Willow Creek Lodge, the mountain peaks outside painted in a fiery sunset. My mother, Evelyn, her eyes gleaming with triumphant satisfaction, raised her glass. Liam's wedding was a fairy tale, she declared, her voice resonating with an almost religious fervor, before her gaze, sharp and heavy, found mine. The table erupted with anecdotes, Liam twirling his radiant bride, the sentimental toasts, the tears. I offered a practiced, demure smile, a silent nod to my role as Aurora, the graceful daughter who never caused a ripple. My cousin, Julian, leaned across, his grin a predatory flash. "So, Aurora, when's your big day? Or are you planning to spring it on us like a surprise party?" A ripple of laughter. Even my father, Robert, allowed a faint smirk, finding the joke amusing. My fingers tightened around the linen napkin beneath the table, twisting the fabric into a desperate knot. The discreet gleam of my wedding band, a quiet rebellion, caught the chandelier's light for a fleeting second before I deliberately tucked my hand away. Evelyn pressed on, her tone a blend of advice and accusation. "Don't dawdle, dear. The best years don't wait forever." More laughter, warm and suffocating. I lifted my wine, the sharp tang of the Cabernet a momentary anchor. My smile held, but beneath it, a truth hummed, a low, dangerous current. They had no idea the narrative had already rewritten itself. The punchline, soon, would be theirs. Liam's best man, Connor, a slick grin plastered on his chair, leaned back in his chair. "Wait too long and you'll be... what's it called?" He snapped his fingers dramatically. "Shopworn goods." A collective snicker. Evelyn's lips thinned, a hint of disdain, but she didn't rebuke him. Her tight smile suggested it was merely an inconvenient truth. The heat climbed my neck, but my composure remained unbroken. I had mastered this silence, this invisibility, years ago. It was their favorite stage. So I smiled, a small, knowing upturn of my lips. "It's already done," I said, my voice soft, almost a whisper, yet it sliced through the post-wedding din like a falling crystal. The laughter died. Forks clattered. Glasses froze mid-air. Julian's sharp grin evaporated, replaced by bewildered confusion. Evelyn blinked, then blinked again, as if her perfect evening had just been defaced. "What?" she managed, her voice suddenly fragile. I set my glass down, the gentle click echoing in the stunned silence. "I'm married." The air in the room thickened, tightening around us. Liam's new wife, Serena, shifted uncomfortably, a deer caught in the headlights of an unforeseen collision. Robert cleared his throat, but no words followed. Evelyn's voice, now stripped of its saccharine warmth, became a honed blade. "When?" I replied, evenly. 6 months ago. Courthouse. Simple. No fuss." Her lips parted, but no sound escaped. Liam's gaze darted between me and our parents, a raw mixture of disbelief and frustrated anger. I had, it seemed, deviated from his carefully choreographed life. I leaned back, folding my napkin with deliberate slowness, the picture of serene calm. They had always mistaken my quiet for weakness. Tonight, they would learn it was merely restraint. As my words sank in, a cacophon of urgent, overlapping questions erupted, demanding answers I had no intention of freely giving. Their voices blurred into a distant hum as another memory surfaced, sharp and clear. It was late spring, the city of Portland humming with renewed warmth after months of rain. Each day, I'd check the mailbox of my quiet Laurelhurst apartment, a fragile hope flickering. Liam's wedding dominated Evelyn's calls. Surely she wouldn't forget me. But the mailbox offered only bills and flyers. When I finally dared to ask, Evelyn's tone was breezy, dismissive. "Oh, darling, we thought you'd be swamped. Those teaching schedules are just so demanding." Liam chimed in equally smooth. "We figured it might complicate things, you bringing someone." Each excuse, perfectly polished, impossible to truly challenge, landed with a dull thud. On the morning of the wedding, I lay in bed, a nameless ache, heavy in my chest. By afternoon, my phone became a relentless beacon of their joy. Social media exploded with photos. Liam and Serena by the Deschutes River, her gown luminous, my parents beaming like royalty. A group shot showed cousins, aunts, everyone in coordinated cream and sage. The caption, "Family forever." I stared until my vision blurred. I didn't cry. Not then. I scrolled, heart pounding, searching for proof it was a mistake, a clerical error. But no proof arrived. Just silence. No call, no apology, just a neat story told without me. That night, I closed my phone and sat by the window, the Portland streetlights a distant glow. The true betrayal wasn't being left out. It was realizing I had never truly been counted in. Months later, when I spoke those quiet words at the table, the truth was already honed, carved deep in the silence of that missing invitation. 6 months before Liam's wedding, I stood with Elias in the Multnomah County Courthouse on Southwest 4th Avenue. Our hands clasped, the marble floors cool beneath our steps, our reflections stretching in the glass doors. A clerk checked our papers, a judge asked if we were ready. That was it. 2 signatures, 2 witnesses, vows spoken stilly. No grand pronouncements, no assigned seats, no curated photos for an audience. Afterwards, we stepped into Portland's soft gray afternoon, the city bustling with its own rhythm. Elias held a small bouquet of calla lilies wrapped in butcher paper, my favorite flowers. We crossed to Tom McCall Waterfront Park, where the Willamette River traced a silver path between bridges. A breeze lifted my simple borrowed veil, and I laughed as Elias caught it before it flew away. We paused on a rise overlooking the water. The Hawthorne Bridge's steel arches, a silent witness. There, without fanfare, we read promises written on scraps of paper, words shaped by truth, not performance. My hands trembled, not from fear, but from stepping fully into something unequivocally mine. Elias slipped a thin gold band onto my finger, chosen together from a tiny shop off Hawthorne Boulevard. No one clapped, no one cried, only the river bore witness. And it was enough. Later, Elias knelt in the soil near our Mount Tabor rental, planting lily bulbs. "Now your name grows here," he said, smiling up at me. The next day, I mailed a photo to my parents. Me, spinning, hair wild, Elias's arms steady around me, my laughter brighter than they'd seen in years. I waited for a call, a note, any sign they'd received it. Nothing came. The silence was louder than outright rejection, a final confirmation that my joy didn't fit their carefully constructed story. By the time Liam's wedding unfolded, I knew how little space I occupied in their narrative. This silence wasn't new. It was one echo in a long chain of omissions. Growing up, Liam's trophies lined the fireplace mantel, gleaming baseball cups, debate plaques, even a ribbon for second place in a science fair. My vibrant drawings in cheap frames gathered dust in the hall closet. When neighbors visited, Evelyn guided them to Liam's impressive display, her voice warm with pride. If anyone inquired about me, she'd say, lightly, "Aurora is our quiet one, always helpful." Each December, her holiday letters on thick cream paper detailed Liam's promotions, internships, engagement. For me, A single, vague line. Aurora stays busy with her projects. No mention of my community center mural or the grant I secured for after-school art programs. My name was punctuation. Necessary, but barely noticed. At first, I thought invisibility was safety. If I didn't demand much, I couldn't disappoint them. If I stayed reliable, I'd be left in peace. But invisibility hardens, becoming a cage that locks you out of your own story until you wonder if you were ever truly part of it. By the time Liam's wedding unfolded, I saw the pattern. I wasn't just forgotten, I was deliberately edited out, not with malice, but with careful erasure disguised as harmonious family life. Evelyn preferred a clean narrative, a son who succeeded, a daughter who didn't complicate things.
I kept the photo, he said abruptly, sliding an envelope across the table. It was the courthouse photo I'd sent months ago, its edges worn from being handled. Your mother called it disrespectful, he continued, his voice low, but I couldn't throw it away. I stared at the image, my laughter frozen mid-spin, Elias's arms steady around me. My throat tightened. Why? I asked. He sipped his coffee, eyes down. Because it felt real, because I wanted to hold on to something that was purely yours. His words were fragile, as if they'd break if pressed too hard. Silence hung until he asked, "Is he good to you?" "Yes," I said firmly. "Better than being unseen." His lips pressed together. The answer was both a relief and a gentle reprimand. He nodded slowly, offering no promises, just acknowledgement. Late. Incomplete. I folded the photo back into its envelope. "Keeping it doesn't undo the rest, Dad," I told him. He didn't argue, just looked at me with a mix of apology and weary resignation. 2 days later, a thick, cream-colored envelope, embossed with the family crest in gold, leaned against my apartment door. Liam's wedding album. No note, no return address. I opened it with a knife. Inside was the album, Liam's wedding captured in glossy pages, scripted captions, the rehearsal dinner, the lakeside ceremony, Evelyn's tearful toast. Then I turned a page and stopped. The family portrait. Everyone posed perfectly, smiling like a magazine spread. Beneath names and elegant calligraphy, positioned between Liam and my parents, stood a dark-haired woman in a dress like mine, but not mine. A cousin from Vermont. My height, my coloring. Her caption read, "Aurora Pike." My stomach sank. They hadn't just excluded me. They had rewritten me. They had replaced me with someone else's face. Elias, drying his hands from dinner, saw the page over my shoulder. His jaw tightened. "They replaced you," he said, quietly, then softer. "That means they knew you belonged." The words should have soothed, but they stung. If I belonged, why erase me? Why substitute me and call it truth? I closed the album carefully, as if the images might spill. The envelope sat on the counter, its gold crest gleaming. I grabbed a marker, uncapped it, and stared at the blank front. The next morning, I carried it outside. In bold, black ink, I had written one word. Across the envelope, slicing through the crest like a judgment. Return. No explanation, no softening apology, just the truth they tried to rewrite. I dropped it into the blue mailbox on the corner. The metal cold under my fingers. The clang as it fell was sharp. Final. That evening, my inbox glowed with Evelyn's email. Subject line, "You blindsided us." Her words were curt, practiced, accusing me of cruelty, claiming Serena was devastated, insisting the dinner scene was unnecessary. I read it twice, searching for any hint she wondered why I'd stayed silent so long. There was none. 2 hours later, Liam posted a photo online, him and Serena at Willow Creek, glasses raised, captioned, "Real love shows up." Comments piled up, friends cheering, relatives praising. I didn't reply. It wasn't meant for me. Instead, I opened a notebook and began planning something mine, Not a wedding redo, but a gathering that couldn't be staged or edited. I chose Crystal Springs Rhododendron Garden in southeast Portland, where wooden bridges span quiet ponds and blooms overflow every corner. A place where presence trumped performance. I listed 30 names: friends, colleagues, neighbors, people who showed up without being asked, who saw me without alteration. Elias read the list over my shoulder. This feels true. For the first time in months, I felt unburdened enough to believe him. On the evening of our gathering, the garden buzzed with more than flowers. Lanterns glowed softly along the bridges, their light dancing on the pond. Voices blended with the trickle of water over stones. 30 chairs formed a loose circle. No head table, no stage. People arrived with pies, lemonade jars, flowers cut from their gardens, work friends, neighbors, even 2 former students. Each face proved I didn't need to audition for belonging. Elias squeezed my hand before we began. We stood at the circle's center, not to perform, but to share what had once been private. We spoke our courthouse vows again, this time loudly, unashamed. My voice broke once, not from nerves, but from a profound weight lifting. No one compared my words to Liam's ceremony or judged my dress. They were simply present, listening, eyes open. At the circle's edge, I glimpsed Robert near the stone steps, unannounced, standing back, hands in his pockets, his face unreadable but focused. When our vows ended and gentle applause rose, he stayed. As I passed him, he whispered, "I'm learning how to show up." I didn't respond. Words would have diminished it. As the night unfolded, we lit candles and set them adrift on the pond, their reflections shimmering, beautifully imperfect. Weeks later, Evelyn's email arrived. Subject line, "Ready to talk when you are." No apology, no recognition of what had been done, just a door slightly ajar on her terms. I replied with mine. Any conversation would be without edits. No fabricated invitations, no swapped names. My life wouldn't bend to her version of family. She didn't respond immediately. Robert did, with a brief note, "I hear you. I'll respect it." It was the closest he'd come to a commitment. Liam sent a sharp message about loyalty and embarrassment. His words were cutting, but empty. I let them pass without reply, wielding silence on my terms. One evening, Elias and I strolled the East Bank Esplanade, the city skyline glowing across the Willamette. Cyclists glided by, joggers kept their rhythm, and the river flowed steadily north. In my pocket, I felt the courthouse photo's edge, folded but whole. I pulled it out, studying our captured laughter. My dress blurred mid-twirl. For months, it had been proof of love, defiance, a life that didn't need their approval. Now it was a reminder. I slipped it back into my pocket and leaned against the railing, the bridge's reflections shimmering below. For the first time in years, the story before me was mine. No revisions looming, no audience to appease. As the river moved beneath us, the weight of family softened into something I could choose. And if this story resonated with you, if you're ready to embrace your own truth, subscribe to my channel. Let's build a community where every story is seen and celebrated.